Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is The Rising Sign, and I wanted to talk about the concept of success in this modern world and what it means on an individual basis. I feel like so many of us have been conditioned to see success only one way, especially with the advent of social media and the exorbitant displays of wealth and just these status symbols of, just having wads of cash, bands and bands, or, having private jets and living in mansions. And that is really not most anyone's reality. And for the people whose reality it is, it really just isn't realistic for most of us. Now, in these days, success is seen as virality, being viral, being visible to hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of people. And if you don't meet that parameter or that stipulation, then somehow you are not successful, or what you have to say is not worth as much as someone who does have that kind of audience. Now, with how algorithms work and the entire purpose of social media, which is to cultivate more and generate more consumerism, of course, certain topics aren't going to be bumped up to the top for viewers. And a consequence of that could be that you doubt yourself or doubt the trajectory of your channel, or perhaps even the relevance of it, the utility of it, when you don't get as much numbers as you maybe hoped for or expected by a certain point. So much of success has been quantified into these little categories and scales where we turn that upon ourselves. And if we're not meeting numbers, if we're not outputting like the perfect little machines we're supposed to be, then somehow we're not measuring up. And there have been times where I even struggled with that level of doubt and just this propensity, this ingrained propensity to measure yourself up against others, people you don't even know. It's like we don't know how they got there, we don't know their circumstances in life, and yet we are conditioned to always be in the know or keep up with the Joneses, especially with social media and all these, everyone that has the ability to platform themselves and document their journeys, their lives, or at the very least, document their greatest representative, the best parts of their lives, which then gives you the illusion that you're lacking in some area, or that you're irrelevant or not as talented, not as intelligent, don't have as much to say because you're not yielding the same results. You're not yielding the same viewership or the same number of subscribers. And that really is a lie. And it really is an illusion that we have to overcome, especially if there is something that we have to say, especially if there is something of value that we are meant to share, especially if it's something that's been eating away at you for so long. You got to get it out there, regardless of how things appear. You're the only one that can live your life, and whoever you're looking at, whoever you're comparing yourself to, they're living theirs. We can only be ourselves, they can only be themselves. And this idea that we have to break and contort ourselves into this cookie cutter archetype that is just so perfect, or has to present themselves so perfect and clean cut and curated and sanitized, is just a lie. That's really what's being sold to us all the time, just artificiality. It being normalized is what is truth. Just look at the beauty standards of today and just how normalized it is to just augment every little aspect of your face. Every pore, every muscle has to be a certain way for you to be considered beautiful and mainstream. And in the world of the rich and elite, that may be their game, but that doesn't mean they get to sell it to us and we have to buy it. This notion of perfection, this illusion of perfection, it's unattainable. And even notoriety, the notoriety that many channels have achieved and gained, certain circumstances have aligned for that to happen. And perhaps there's a different path for you. Perhaps you gain your version of success, or you come upon your version of success on a different road, on a different route, or through a different approach entirely. But that does not mean you're not successful, because your success does not look like someone else's success, or your journey compared to someone else's supposed success does not mean your failure. And that's just something I wanted to share, because I feel like so many of us, especially those like Gen Z and older, we're really asking these questions, since so much of what is, the stepping stones or the stages of life have been upended by a crumbling economy. We've kind of stumbled into this, into this era of financial strife and difficulty when it comes to going to school, or landing a job, or buying a house, starting a family. So many of us are shying away from even that, because success has been so redefined now, and the bar just keeps moving, the goalpost just keeps moving, and this idea that we have to keep up with the Joneses and try to struggle and scratch to to curate a life, or the appearance of a life of of success, is just exhausting and false. We have to define it for ourselves. We have to have the strength of will, the strength of heart, the strength of mind to define it for ourselves, to step outside of the norm, the so-called norm, which is really abnormal, and find out what it means for us, to really tap into us. Because we've been conditioned to be cogs, to be nodes of the same machine. And we have to start asking these questions if we're to have any true fulfillment. We have to find that fulfillment first within ourselves. And I think right now, in this very turbulent time that we're all finding ourselves in, it's very important to find that, to find something that grounds you, something that keeps you from flying off the handle, or keeps you from, falling into these stormy waters right now. Because the waters are stormy, and we deserve something to tether us to peace, something that is ours, truly ours, not something implanted into us, something not inserted into us psychologically, surreptitiously, secretly by, hungry, just these hungry corporations, these hungry overlords that, see us as fodder for their own profits and financial gain. We're not machines meant to output, to yield greater output, more and more and more. Like, sometimes the path to growth is, it's kind of a wave. There's ups and downs. I mean, it's not always a straight incline into growth. It's not always pretty and perfect. And it certainly isn't always easy. But we have to take pride in our own individual path, and not think or not view someone else's path, someone we will never know, like view their path as taking away from ours, or affirming that ours matters less. And I think that's a very important reminder that we all kind of have to internalize, especially now when everybody can get up on a soapbox, and everyone has a platform, and everyone can show you exactly what they want you to see. And it kind of has that illusion of, oh, this is reality. And we're kind of at the point where it's like, oh, we don't really know what's real and what's not on the internet. And that's why we really have to have that sense of self, establish that sense of self in whatever you do, but most especially in the things that you are passionate about, and not so much focusing on numbers, quantifiers, these outer things. Not at first, because that's going to sour and taint your craft, your hobby, your passion. It's going to make you doubt yourself, and it's going to muddy those waters, and you won't be as good, or you won't be as truly successful as you could be when you're doing it for someone else, when you're doing it, to keep up with someone else. But yeah, those are just my 2 cents for the day. And besides that, I do hope you all have a wonderful, fresh start to the week, and that you love yourselves a little bit more each day. This is the Rising Sign, signing off. Until next time.